Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with one-step chicken noodle soup. That's right, I have a cold, so I really want some homemade chicken noodle soup. Except the problem with that is when you have a cold, you don't feel like making a soup. So what I decided to do, since I had all the ingredients around, was compromise and make some homemade chicken noodle soup, but using the I don't feel good and have no energy one-step method. Yes, believe it or not, I just dumped everything in a pot to see what would happen, and this, my friends, is exactly what happened. So what I did is took a cold saucepan, and I dumped in some raw cubed up chicken. And normally I would definitely use chicken thigh for this, but I had some breasts, and I know that's what you people usually use. So I went with the breast. And then to that we'll add a small handful of raw pasta. And as you could probably see, I went with a corkscrew-shaped egg noodle here. And I know it doesn't look like much, but as you'll see, a little bit goes a long way in this. And then we'll also go ahead and toss in our aromatic vegetables, which would include some onions, celery, and carrots. And because I was going with this possibly ridiculous I don't feel good one-step method, I made sure those veggies were cut nice and small and or thin, since we're not going to do any sauteing here. And then after our veggies, we're going to do a little bit of ketchup, as well as a thyme sprig, because I have it right outside my window. We will also season this up with some salt, freshly ground black pepper, and cayenne. Well, that's good for you if you got a cold. You're definitely going to want to eat some cayenne. And then last but not least, because we're obviously not roasting the chicken and making a broth from scratch, we will go ahead and dump in some carton broth, but make sure it's all natural and organic and really nice quality. And the one I used was several of those things. And then what my plan was here was to place this over medium-high heat and bring it up to a simmer. And then I figured I would just cook it, stirring occasionally, until hopefully it turned into something like chicken noodle soup. And I'm not going to lie, as this came up to temperature, I was getting very pessimistic, since it wasn't looking too good. But as it heated through and started to simmer, it got even worse. Man, was it looking bad. And no, I didn't even bother to skim. I just didn't have the energy. Although the official reason is I didn't want to lose any nutrients. And by the way, that's just a looks thing. You don't have to skim foam for safety reasons. But anyway, what I did is gave that a stir and reduced the heat down to medium-low and continued simmering, stirring occasionally until my veggies were nice and soft and tender and my noodles were fully cooked and then some. This is not something you want al dente noodles in. Okay, I wanted my pasta fully bloomed and almost dumpling-like. And as it cooked, it did get nominally better looking. I mean, I figured it was going to be cloudy because we were putting all these raw ingredients in and the raw pasta. But since this was the first time I'd ever tried something like this, I had no idea what to expect. So I kept it cooking on medium-low heat, and right here my noodles were getting pretty close. But like I said, I did want those noodles soft, so I let it go. Until right about here I gave it a taste and decided it was perfect. So in case you're wondering, mine simmered for about 35 minutes total. But as always, your results may vary, which is why you're going to test it, not only for doneness but also for seasoning. You are, after all, the Kevin Kline of I was too sick to think of a rhyme. And then once I decided this had cooked long enough, I decided to finish up with a little bit of freshly chopped Italian parsley. And in case some of you are wondering, doesn't this make it a two-step soup now? No, it's actually still one step. I mean, come on, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? So I stirred in some parsley and gave it a final taste for salt. And then once our soup is feeling and tasting exactly how we want, we'll go ahead and serve that up into some hot bowls. And then I garnished with a little extra pinch of parsley, which helped improve the visual appearance zero amount. But I'm still happy with my decision. And as the old saying goes, looks like hell, but tastes like heaven. So while the appearance improved significantly from what we saw in the pot, this is still not really what I would call beautiful, or maybe even appetizing. But here's the good news. This tasted way better than it should have. Believe it or not, this tasted exactly like a really good version of a canned chicken noodle soup. Which kind of makes sense because I remember seeing one of those shows back when on how they make canned soup, and I'm pretty sure they just boiled everything and put it in the cans. And especially the noodles had the exact texture of a canned soup, which I guess is good. So notwithstanding its questionable appearance, I was absolutely thrilled with how this came out. Oh, and by the way, if you're new to cooking, here's what I want you to do. I want you to make this recipe exactly as shown, and then make it again. But the second time I want you to saute the onions in a little butter, just so you can taste why we actually do that step. So if I'm being really critical, that's the only drawback of this one-step method. I think the flavor profile is a little better, a little sweeter if you do saute those onions first. But anyway, that's it. One-step chicken noodle soup. Thank you for letting me phone this one in. If you happen to find yourself in a similar situation, I really do hope you give this a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy